again, why don't people take action? I touched base on this, in my opening statement. People are scared. It's the human element of this: scared, angry, depressed, embarrassed. We've got to embrace who we are. I know it's suffocating. It feels like you can't breathe. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? This just sucks. And it's hard. But Graham would just say you got to do it. She said you got to live for the living. Of that 1%, only about 30% lost their homes. So I think now we're going to transition into the next part of the presentation and talk about some of the specific programs. So we'll quick go off camera because there's another question.
Let's just talk about this a little bit. And we're emphasizing, the don't panic. Let's think about this clearly. It's a situation, or the foreclosure world or foreclosure process is something that takes time. There are logical steps and arguments that can be made most of the time. Some of the time, you run into weird situations where it's more than just an easy fix, and there's got to be a little more technical help. But the first thing first, don't panic. Don't panic. There are ways out of this. And it's important to know that even if you're really far into the process of foreclosure, there still are ways, that you can deal with it to get out of that mortgage and into a rental property or something else in a way that isn't the end of the world for you and your family. It's just not the end of the world. People have survived this, trust me, because we see people come through who are just way too late in the process to totally help. Save their home. Life goes on. They may be able to buy another property in 3 years. That's just that's the way it works. So don't panic. It's not the end of the world. See a HUD certified counseling agency. And why I say that is because people are calling, lender or borrowers and saying, here, for $500, we'll help you get out of the situation. Well, I tell you what, we do this for free. That's our job. That's why we exist. We do this for free. We get grant money from the federal government. We get assistance from our county. We get assistance from anywhere we can get it, so we can provide this service. We're a nonprofit organization, as are the other two. We're not in this to make a profit for ourselves. Now, when we see clients, we do get reimbursed for that, so we can pay for our counselor staff. So, there is something. We are trying to get people through our door so we can keep this kind of work going. But the whole point of the work is to help you. So see a HUD certified housing counseling agency. Stay in touch with your lender. What I like to say is make sure you're calling the lender while you're on the way to my office or Teddy's office or Mike's office. You should be working both angles simultaneously. If you don't feel comfortable calling your lender, if you don't know exactly what to say, come see us first. We'll sit down there and we'll call them with you. We can put a plan together and say, these are the talking points, these are the things that we want to discuss with your lender, and this is the approach that we're going to take. Okay? So, when you come see a foreclosure counselor, what's going to happen? How's it going to work? We're going to gather your information, and Sue puts together a sheet here that does have some specifics. And you can take one as you walk out the door. What do you usually need to bring when you're going through something like this? You usually need to bring information on your mortgage, of course. Information on your income, definitely. Information on your other debts, which are very important. We need to understand all the different pieces of the puzzle that is your situation, so we can analyze it. So we can say, okay, what's really going on? Is there money that we can squeeze, to put aside and save for a good faith payment? If there's not, what's our options? We have to look at all those different things, and that's what our counselors are really trained to do. We need to develop a hardship letter. Now, I mentioned this earlier, when we were talking before this started. It's very important that you can be put in writing what your situation is, and you can mail it to your lender, certified mail, so that everybody knows that they have a copy of why this is happening. So that takes some thought. Maybe it's a job loss. Maybe it's an issue with illness in the family, or extra expenses, or lack, or lower income than you had before. Maybe it's a subprime loan that's just adjusting out of your reach. It could be all of these things, but they need to know, and you need to put it down on paper. Our counselors can help you do that. A counselor will help you sit down and say, these are the things that we really need to have in this hardship letter, so we can send it to the lender, so there's a record that they know, that you're going through this, and that there's a record that you reached out to them. Not that they're trying to chase you, not that you're dodging their calls or their mail, but you're reaching out to them and you're saying, look, I'm making my payments now, but 2 months from now, it's just not happening unless something changes, unless I get a good job or something else happens. And you're saying that 2 months in advance, so they have it because you get the copy of the return certified mail, they have it. It's an important step, that we as counselors, or Teddy, if it comes to this as an attorney, can say, look, you have this information, we told you up front, and you're not cooperating. That puts you on a little bit of better ground than you would certainly have if you ducked their calls or just wouldn't get back to them. All right? So a hardship letter is very important. We need to work on a realistic budget, and I stress realistic, because when job loss is involved or there's a drop in income, budget gets really tough. It gets tough to pay all those obligations. That's just the reality of it. So we have to say, what's realistic? We have people that we sit down and work on a budget with, and they're saying, I just can't pay my mortgage. I can't pay my mortgage. There's no money. And yet they're paying $500 a month on credit card. They're paying their credit card off and not paying their mortgage. Or they're paying $100 a month in cable and internet. And so, sometimes it just takes somebody sitting down with you to say, we have to kind of shift some priorities. And it's hard. Teddy mentioned, you're kind of knocked off track. You're feeling squeezed. You can't look at things, the same way you would if somebody's sitting there going through some logical steps with you. And say, these are expenses. I tell you what, the credit card company can't take your house if you don't pay your credit card bills. Okay? They can't take your house. The bank can. The lender can. So there's more flexibility with not paying those credit cards. And sometimes it's hard to imagine, but sometimes it is that simple. We've had people dealt with families or borrowers who come and say, I'm 4 months behind my mortgage. They're calling me. They're doing all this, and we say, well, you're paying $700 a month on your credit card. Just shift that over. And that's all it took. They were able to kind of get a modification and get agreed and get back. Now, they still have that credit card to deal with, but there's a lot of other ways to deal with credit card late fees and late issues, and there are dealing with a late payment on a home. So, those are the types of things that sometimes you just have to look at it realistically. And assist with the negotiated workout agreement with the lender or servicer. This is really the most important part of what a counselor would do. We take all that information, we analyze it, we help you put your hardship letter together and say, why is this happening? We look at the budget and say, okay, what's a realistic way, that we're going to proceed with this situation? And then we assist with negotiating a workout agreement or a modification. We're going to get on some specifics on what options there are. But the counselor physically say to you, this is looking at all this information, this is our game plan. This is what we can do. Are you comfortable with this? And if you are, then we say, okay, let's put a package together and contact the lender. We'll call them on the phone. Typically we submit it. They take, it could take 2 or 3 months to respond to it. That's just the way it is. But we're there during that time. We can help with accountability and say, hey, did you call your lender this week, or did you call or did you send that letter you were supposed to? And that's our counselor job, to keep you on track during this and help you negotiate with your lender for a way out of this situation.